After 2 months away from the UFC Apex, we are now getting our second consecutive weekend at the UFC Apex. This time it's UFC Vegas 109 headlined between the number 9 ranked Roman Dolidze and the number 10 ranked Anthony Fluffy Hernandez. A big one in the middleweight division with two men combining for a 10-fight win streak. Someone's streak must come to a close and one man will climb one step closer to title contention at 185 pounds, and it comes at a pivotal point in this division right now in 2025. Because the championship will be getting defended in this weight class just 1 week later. With Roman Dolidze's lone fight in 2023 being a loss and his first of 2 fights in 2024 also being a loss, it seemed as though maybe we saw the ceiling reached by Roman Dolidze at that point, with his biggest win being against Jack Hermansson at the end of 2022. Because in those two aforementioned losses, it was to Marvin Vettori, a former title challenger, and Nassourdine Imavov, who is one win away from being the next title challenger in this weight class if he gets a victory on September 6th against Caio Borralho. So we saw Roman Dolidze climb right near the number 10, number 9, number 8 spot in this middleweight division and falter against two of the elite level fighters in this weight class. Marvin may be more elite a couple years ago than he is now, but still has that title challenging opportunity under his belt, and Nassourdine Imavov, arguably the hottest fighter going in this middleweight division, maybe paired with his opponent Borralho and Roman Dolidze's opponent this weekend, Anthony Hernandez. However, all it took was a random reset at 205 pounds for Roman Dolidze to right the ship in his career, because now he finds himself entering this UFC Vegas 109 main event on a 3-fight win streak. That 205-pound reset would come in a victory against Anthony Smith, a former light heavyweight title challenger. That would be a very convincing decision last June at UFC 303. Then Roman would drop back down to middleweight and secure 2 more victories in a row, the first being against Kevin Holland, where he would win that fight via TKO due to a doctor stoppage at the end of the first round in a fight that he was dominating. And that second one in a row at middleweight would be against the previously mentioned Marvin Vettori. So Dolidze was able to right the wrongs and get revenge en route to getting his 3rd straight victory. And now at 37 years of age, he may just be 2 more victories away from being a title challenger at this division. His resurgence continues to show the improving skill sets of the fighters coming out of the country of Georgia alongside Merab Dvalishvili, arguably the best fighter in the world right now, and Ilia Topuria, the best fighter in the world right now. Of course, he shares some of that heritage with Spain as well, but Georgian MMA is definitely on the map more than it ever has been before in 2025, and Roman Dolidze is a major player in that discussion. He's finished 11 out of his 15 victories with 8 knockouts and 3 submissions, and he really can get it done everywhere. I wouldn't necessarily say that he is a specialist in any specific category, but he can strike when the fight is on the feet, and he can grapple when it's down on the mat. And he's definitely going to need both of those skill sets in this main event, and more so the grappling, because Anthony Fluffy Hernandez is one of the most dangerous grapplers in this middleweight division right now. And it helps when he has momentum on his side and 6 years age difference, because Anthony is 31 years old, right in his prime, and has won his last 7 bouts, having not lost a fight since May of 2020 against Kevin Holland. And over the course of this 7-fight win streak, 5 of those victories have been by way of stoppage, with 3 submissions and 2 KO TKOs, and it includes victories over Brendan Allen, Michel Pereira, Roman Kopylov, Edmund Shabazian, and Marc-Andre Barrios. All in all, Anthony also has 11 finishes on his resume, but you gotta flip the numbers from Roman, because he has 3 KO TKOs and 8 submissions to his name. And Fluffy is anything but that when he steps into that octagon. He may just be the most durable, grinded out style of fighter that there is at the 185-pound weight class right now. Just ask Rodolfo Vieira, who was doing very well in their fight before Anthony would start his win streak by having one of the best comebacks of 2021. And the best performance of Anthony Fluffy Hernandez's career also came on this 7-fight win streak, and that was in his main event opportunity against Michel Pereira last October, where he would absolutely dominate Pereira, who was on a massive win streak in his own right at that point, from minute 1 all the way to minute 22, because that was when he would ultimately force Michel Pereira to succumb to his strikes down on the mat and get the 5th round TKO victory. And I think that is the W on Anthony's record that really got people talking about the potential of this man and what he could do in the future of this middleweight division. And now he gets the opportunity to break into the top 10 of 185 pounds, take out a veteran that has fought many big names before him in Roman Dolidze. and again has this opportunity to do so just 1 week out from when the championship will be defended in this weight class and less than a month out from when that big number one contendership fight happens in this weight class between Imavov and Baralho. I feel very confident that should Hernandez beat Dolidze, especially if it's in dominant, decisive fashion, he will just need one more win to be a number one contender given his win streak and the freshness that he can add to the title contention talks of this weight class. And I don't think he will necessarily have to fall back on his grappling in order to get a victory here against Roman. I would say that they're borderline even on the feet. But if it does get down to the grappling, as strong physically as Roman Dolidze is, I don't think that's going to be enough to outclass what Anthony can do down there offensively with his skills and submission threats. The X's and O's are definitely intriguing with this main event, but the storylines are even more so than that because of all of the movement going on at 185 pounds right now. It's arguably the second hottest division in the UFC in 2025, shortly behind the welterweight division at 170 pounds. That division has 27 number one contenders for the title. And a welterweight isn't even getting the next title shot if that tells you anything. So I want to hear from you down in the comments below and give me your predictions for UFC Vegas 109. Will Roman Dolidze extend his win streak to 4 or will Anthony Hernandez extend his to 8? And regardless of who the winner is this weekend, let me know how far away you think each of them are from a potential title shot as well. And now that we are done with the main event, let's jump into a couple of other fights on this card because much like last week, there aren't a ton of big names, there aren't a ton of ranked fighters, and there aren't that many storylines to talk about, but there are some fun matchups, and we got to give them some shine. In the co-main event, we will see the Astro Boy and former title challenger Steve Erceg taking on short notice replacement Ode Osbourne. Osbourne is replacing Hyung Sung Park, who was scheduled to face Erceg before stepping in on short notice last weekend to face number 6 ranked Tatsuro Taira in this weight class. For Erceg, this is a must-win opportunity, dare I say, because after starting his UFC career 3-0 and his overall career 12-1, he now finds himself on a 3-fight skid entering this co-main event opportunity. He would be catapulted up the rankings and inserted directly into title contention after those first 3 UFC fights and take on Alexandre Pantoja, and he would give the champion everything that he could handle, but ultimately it would not be enough as Pantoja would get the decision victory there. Then just a few short months later, in August of 2024, Steve Erceg would take on Kai Kara-France, a former title challenger, and get brutally finished in round number 1. And in his first fight of 2025, in a main event against Brandon Moreno, former 2-time champion, he would lose a decision there in Mexico. Now luckily for Steve, he is still just 30 years old. He is right in the middle of his prime, and I think it's more of a mental thing than physical because he has showed flashes of greatness even in that championship fight against Pantoja. Even in that fight against Brandon Moreno, he's a highly skilled flyweight that can get the job done anywhere that the fight goes, whether that be on the feet with his boxing and very vicious and slept-on power, or with his sneaky grappling skills. Because let it be known that 6 of his 8 finishes are by way of submission. And I'm going to be honest, even if it would have been Hyung Sung Park in this spot, and now that it's Ode Osbourne, I would have favored Steve Erceg regardless of the matchup. I feel like this is a very good bounce-back opportunity for him to get back into that win column, get his mind in the right spot again, and hold his spot amongst the top 10 of the flyweight division. For the Jamaican sensation Ode Osbourne, he also found himself on a 3-fight losing streak entering 2025, but he was able to bounce back with a win over Luis Garullo in April, where he would not only get a victory, but get a second-round TKO. However, for Osbourne's 3-fight win streak, when compared to Steve's, it would come against much lesser competition, but in more convincing fashion. 2 of them would be submission losses and a decision loss to Ronaldo Rodriguez. But for what it's worth, that fight with Rodriguez at Noche UFC last September was absolutely bonkers. Much like Erceg, Ode is also in his prime, just a little bit older, however, at 33 years old, and he has finished 10 of his 13 victories with 6 knockouts and 4 submissions. I feel like this fight is going to be very fast-paced and have a lot of high-octane action. Someone will get finished in this one. I just feel like the clashing styles are too much for a decision to handle. And if Ode can prove me wrong and get a victory over Erceg, this would by far be the biggest win of his career, and he would catapult himself not only into the rankings, but up to the number 10 spot in the world, just putting him a couple of wins away from flyweight title contention, maybe even less because of how dominant Pantoja is right now, and he is in need of new title challengers. And the other ranked fight on this card will feature the number 8 ranked strawweight Iasmin Lucindo taking on the number 12 ranked longtime veteran Angela Hill. There is going to be a 17-year age difference between the red and blue corners of this fight because the number 8 ranked Lucindo is just 23 years young and the number 12 ranked Angela Hill is 40 years young. But don't let that 40 fool you. She has won 3 of her last 4 bouts heading into this one. The most recent coming in February with a decision win over Ketlin Souza, and the other 2 wins being against Luana Pinheiro and Denise Gomes, all 3 of which much younger than Angela Hill, and she was still able to prove them wrong. And the lone loss sandwiched in between those 4 was Tabitha Ricci, and that was a very competitive decision loss there. And in terms of competition, yes, Lucindo's last 3 have been very good in terms of resume builders, but it doesn't come close to the names that Angela Hill has fought, because she has literally faced everyone there is to face over the course of the strawweight division's history, including the 4 that I just talked about. Mackenzie Dern, arguably a next title challenger. Lupi Godinez, ranked in the top 15. Virna Jandiroba, the next #1 contender also. Amanda Lemos, a former title challenger. Tisha Pennington. Michelle Watterson Gomez. Claudia Gadella, a former title challenger. Yan Xiaonan, a former title challenger. Nina Nunes, and Jessica Andrade, a former champion. And yes, while many of those names I just mentioned have gotten the upper hand over Angela Hill and gotten victories, none of them have been dominant by any means. A majority of Angela Hill's fights are razor close by the time it goes down to the judges' scorecards. And for Lucindo, when she faced the biggest name opponent, she also fell short, and that was Amanda Lemos in March at UFC 313, where she would lose a very convincing decision to the former title challenger. But I will say before that, Lucindo had won 4 fights in a row, and the 2 heading into that one was against Marina Rodriguez and Karolina Kowalkiewicz, a former title challenger from years ago. So all in all, 4-2 in the UFC, and she will enter this fight as the betting favorite, meaning that I will have to put some money down on Angela Hill as the underdog. I don't make the rules. I really do think that anywhere Lucindo wants to take this fight, Angela Hill can have the answers to solve those questions. She's been in there with too many big name fighters and been in all aspects of the fight game, all different realms, whether that's grappling, whether it's in the clinch, whether it's in the striking. She can compete anywhere that this fight goes, and is one of the most durable fighters in the UFC's history as well, let alone strawweight, as she has only been finished 2 times out of 14 professional losses, and they were both by way of submission. And just 3 of Lucindo's 17 professional victories have been by way of sub, so I don't necessarily think she's going to be looking for that here this weekend. For Lucindo, she can bounce back, get into the win column, and hold her top 10 spot, proving that she can still be a player moving forward in the strawweight division that has a few question marks at the top of the division. And for Angela Hill, she can crack back into the top 10, maybe even climb nearer to the top 5 with a win here, and at 40 years old, could find herself 1 or 2 wins away from a title shot. That would be absolutely insane. As for the rest of the card, there aren't a lot of storylines to discuss, but in terms of fun fights, Andre Fili and Christian Rodriguez are likely to have an absolute grinded out blood and guts war for as long as it goes. Uros Medic versus Gilbert Urbina likely doesn't go the full 15 minutes up at the welterweight division, and I almost forgot, there technically is one other ranked fighter on this card, so I'm glad I took a quick look before ending out the recording here, because Joselyne Edwards is a ranked bantamweight now, and she's looking to defend that spot against the zombie girl Priscila Cachoeira. Joselyne has won 5 of her last 7 bouts, with the lone losses coming to Eileen Perez, who is currently number 7 in the division, and Nora Cornell, who is number 12. And she enters this one riding a 2-fight win streak, both of them by way of stoppage. A 3rd-round submission over Tamiris Vidal, and a 1st-round knockout over Chelsea Chandler. That is what put Joselyne into the rankings, currently sitting at number 14. And for Priscila Cachoeira, she'll be competing in the bantamweight division for her 2nd consecutive fight, because her last one was against Joselyne Nunes, where she would get a 1st-round knockout, but prior to that had a very mixed run of things in the flyweight division. So maybe this is a proper career move for her, but I promise you, when they're in that octagon on Saturday, Joselyne Edwards will be significantly bigger and stronger physically than Priscila, and I think that's going to cause a lot of problems for the zombie girl. So that is it for the UFC Vegas 109 breakdown, and I want to get your thoughts down in the comments below, alongside with your predictions and your bets. If you enjoyed this breakdown, please be sure to drop a like and subscribe to the channel if you are new, because we are on the road to reaching 1,000 subscribers before the end of 2025, and any and all support is greatly appreciated. Alongside previews of every single card with all of the biggest storylines and talking points, I also recap the most meaningful results in the aftermath of each card and give my thoughts and opinions on MMA news and fight announcements. You can also join the community on social media at Verbal Spar MMA on X, Instagram, and TikTok. And if you enjoy podcast episodes, you can follow along on Spotify and Apple, where they release every Monday and Friday. Have a great weekend, enjoy the fights, and I will see you all in the next video.